I had never planned to steal the spotlight at my son's wedding, but when his bride tried to humiliate me in front of 300 guests, she left me no choice. I'm George Whitmore, 68 years old, retired engineer, widower, and apparently an embarrassment to my son's new wife. Or at least, that's what she called me, right before I decided to end her dream wedding with a single sentence. The morning of the ceremony was perfect. Clear skies, a soft breeze, and the smell of fresh roses from the garden I had personally helped plant. I had spent months helping my son, Ryan, plan this wedding. After his mother passed 5 years ago, I promised I'd stand by him no matter what. I gave him the family estate's backyard for the venue, paid for the catering, even covered the open bar because, well, it was his big day. Ryan had always been my pride. A kind, hard-working man who had found love in a woman named Claire. She was beautiful, charming, at least when people were watching. But behind the scenes, I'd caught glimpses of something else. Arrogance, entitlement, a constant need to control. I had tried to warn Ryan once, gently. He just smiled and said, "Dad, she's just stressed about the wedding." So I stayed quiet until the wedding day. Everything was going smoothly. Music, laughter, champagne glasses clinking. Then came the speeches. Ryan spoke first, tearful and sincere. Claire's father followed, bragging about the expensive designer gown and the impressive guest list. And then, unexpectedly, Claire stood up and took the microphone. She smiled at the crowd, her diamond earrings catching the sunlight. "Before we all toast," she began, "I just want to thank everyone who made this beautiful day possible." Applause. She continued, "Especially my family, who spared no expense to make this dream come true. And of course, my dear husband, who worked so hard to give us the future we deserve." More applause. I smiled, proud of my son. Then she turned her head, looked straight at me, and said with that same smile, sweet but cold, "And thank you to George for, well, doing what he could." The crowd went silent for a second. Then a few nervous chuckles rippled through the guests. I blinked, unsure I'd heard her right. Claire tilted her head, pretending innocence. "I mean, it's lovely that he wanted to help even after retirement. But, you know, budgets are tight when you live on a pension." The laughter grew louder this time. I saw a few people exchange awkward looks. My son's face turned pale. Ryan whispered, "Claire, what the hell?" But she kept talking, smiling wider. "Oh, I'm only teasing. George has done his best. I'm sure it wasn't easy for him to contribute." That's when I noticed something. Her friends smirking, clearly in on the joke. I could have swallowed my pride and stayed quiet. I could have let it slide for my son's sake. But my late wife, God rest her soul, had always told me, "Dignity is the one thing you never let anyone take from you." So I stood up, slowly, calmly. The microphone was still in Claire's hand, but I gestured politely. "May I say a few words?" Her smirk faltered, but she handed me the mic. I looked out at the crowd, smiled warmly, and began, "First of all, congratulations to my son and his lovely bride. It's a wonderful day." People nodded. A few smiled, relieved the tension might fade. "But," I continued, "I do need to correct a small misunderstanding." I glanced at Claire. "You see, the entire wedding, from the flowers to the catering, even that live jazz band, wasn't paid for by your family or my son." A murmur swept through the crowd. "No," I said, voice steady. "It was paid entirely from my account. Every cent. Because I wanted my son to have the best day of his life." Claire froze, color draining from her face. "And since I'm apparently on a tight pension," I added, "I made sure to transfer the remaining balance of the wedding fund this morning, back into my savings. After all, I wouldn't want to burden anyone with my limited means." The room erupted in whispers. Claire's father's jaw dropped. Ryan looked like he'd been hit with a sledgehammer. I set the microphone down gently, straightened my jacket, and nodded to the band. "Please, continue." Then I walked out, slow, composed, like I'd simply finished giving a toast. By the time I reached the parking lot, My phone was buzzing nonstop. Ryan. Again and again. I finally answered. "Dad, what did you just do?" His voice cracked with panic. "What I should have done a long time ago," I said quietly. "I stood up for myself." There was silence. Then, "Claire's crying. Her dad's furious. They said the caterers are demanding payment." I sighed. They were already paid. But I canceled the rest. The honeymoon suite, the photographer's second-day shoot, and the limo service. I figured since I'm such a burden, I should save you the trouble. "Dad, please." He sounded torn. "You embarrassed her." "No, son," I said gently. "She embarrassed herself. You just didn't see it." Later that evening, as I sat in my empty house with a glass of whiskey, Brian came by, still in his suit, tie loose, face tired. He stood at the door for a long moment before speaking. "She said she didn't mean it, that it was a joke. I gestured for him to sit. A joke at someone's expense stops being funny when it costs you respect." He rubbed his eyes. "I'm sorry, Dad. You've done everything for me, and I let her talk to you like that." I smiled sadly. "Love makes us blind. I understand. Just promise me one thing. Don't let anyone make you ashamed of where you come from." He nodded, silent tears forming. We sat together in the quiet, the clock ticking softly. The wedding was over, but something else had begun, a moment of truth for both of us. A week later, I heard the marriage was already under strain. Claire's family refused to pay back their share. Brian told me she'd been furious that her perfect day had been ruined. But he also told me something else. He'd stood up for me. "I told her," he said, "if she can't respect the man who raised me, she doesn't deserve to wear my ring." That night, I smiled for the first time in days. Because weddings can fall apart. Vows can break. But dignity, once reclaimed, never fades. And if my son learned that lesson from me, then maybe the day wasn't ruined after all.